Hello, beautiful balloon bosses. I am Chrissanne Long, a strategic growth coach and certified Business Made Simple coach. The Business Made Simple program was created by Donald Miller, speaker, podcaster, and international best-selling author of several books, including Building a Story Brand and Business Made Simple, which was released at the beginning of 2020. The Business Made Simple book brought about pivotal breakthroughs for me and my business, and it has become the framework for my coaching since each member of my team adopted its principles in January of 2020. Why has this program been so transformative for me? Because it's a simple and easy to understand framework that allows you, the busy entrepreneur, to quickly identify what you need to focus on now so that you can ensure your business soars well into the future. I am super excited to be partnering with Balloon Boss Summit producer Joette Giardina, aka BalloonCoach, in 2022 to help you, the staff, and delegates of Balloon Boss 2022 reduce the overwhelm that is inherent in building a business, and to work alongside you to provide a proven path to establish foundational business systems for sustainable and strategic growth. For the next 30 minutes or so, you'll get an introduction to the How to Build a Business framework from Donald Miller himself. This video was recorded in July of 2020 when Don joined me, Joette, and about 100 other local entrepreneurs and business leaders from my hometown in Lakeland, Florida for a Zoom call called Building Better Businesses. This particular video is a great primer, and Joette asked me to share it with you as an introduction to the content we'll be discussing on our kickoff webinar in January. Oh, and while we're on the subject, grab your calendar app and save the date. Thursday, January 13th at noon Eastern Standard Time. That's when we're going to be getting together for that kickoff webinar. Okay, so I did have the opportunity to see you all in action in November this year, and I'm beyond excited to get to know some of you in the coming months as we prepare for Balloon Boss Summit 22, where we will focus on helping you and your business soar.
Well, first of all, let me just say, Chrissane, thanks for having me on. These calls are always really fun. I'm going to try to be a little bit brief so that we can have more time for Q&A. And just so you know a little bit about me, I'm the least likely guy to give a business presentation. Never went to business school, grew up really poor, wrote a bunch of memoirs. I'm really an artist. And I wrote about 7 memoirs back in my 20s and 30s, and they did really well. And, you know, when you have a memoir that does well, the publisher comes back and says, will you write one more? You know, we're writing more. And I just decided if you write your 8th memoir, you're a clinical narcissist. And I'm just a regular narcissist, not a clinical narcissist. So I pivoted careers. I wrote a book about story as it relates to marketing and messaging because I'd studied story to write books. I didn't expect that book to sell 5 copies. It sold 600,000 copies, and people all over are using it to really bring attention to their initiative and their company or their political campaign or their nonprofit. And so I spent 7 years telling my story. Now I help other people tell theirs, and I really love it. And then that turned into a company with a bunch of employees, and I had to grow that company. And then people would come to me and say, how did you grow your company? And as a guy who never went to business school, I just kind of winged it, to be honest. And then I reverse engineered what I'd done to wing it and shared with people all of the frameworks that I used to grow the company. And that became Business Made Simple. So essentially what it is, it's a very blue collar way of growing a company. If you want to sound really smart in business, this is not the way to go. If you want to make a lot of money in your business, it's the exact way to go. So that's kind of my pitch for everything I'm about to share it with you. But it's really been fun to build this community of just sort of blue collar business owners. We have over 20,000 business owners in the system now. We have a bunch of coaches like Chrissane helping those business owners grow their business and understand the material. So I'm going to go through basically how I grew a company and the way I thought about my company. We're at about 16.5 million. We run a 64% profit margin. We've got no investors, no banks, no private equity, no nothing. We just did it by providing value for customers. And I'm convinced anybody can really do it, you know, if you have a good product. So I'll share my screen and we will go through a little bit of a keynote, and then I'll open it up for questions here in a minute. Oh, you know, I'm not going to be able to admit people. Oh, no, I can. Okay. So let's see. Running a business, I think for a lot of people, for me included, felt like a mystery. Just didn't know what I was doing, didn't fully understand how a business actually grows. Really, like so many people, was just more or less was winging it. And the more I got into it, the more I realized, well, here's was a big epiphany for me. Once we hit about 4 million, I realized I was in over my head and I didn't know what I was doing. And so I hired somebody from Harvard Business School. I knew we had enormous potential, and I hired somebody from Harvard Business to run my company. While they ran my company for 5 months, we experienced a 20% decline in revenue and a 30% decline in profit. And I just kind of sat down and said, man, I'm not sure what you're doing here, but you know, maybe if I could take over for a minute and kind of show you the way I think it should run. And he just resigned. He resigned on the spot. And I took back over the company, and we started growing again. And I realized at that point, and a lot of other evidence suggested, that maybe our business schools aren't teaching a very practical way to grow a business. Teaching a lot about trade with China. They're basically preparing you to be chairman of the Fed, but they're not teaching you to actually grow and scale a business. And so the framework that I'll present to you is the framework that I used in order to actually grow. The reality is most businesses lack a visible representation of what a business should look like. And it's hard to improve or make progress that can be measured unless you actually have a standard. And so my question was, what should my business look like so that I can pair what it looks like now to what it should look like and make the appropriate changes? And so I kept asking myself, what does a business look like? And I came up with a really good metaphor. And that metaphor, when I came up with it, was the difference between not growing and growing. And basically, I realized there's 6 major parts to every business. And when these 6 parts work correctly, your business will be healthy and it'll make money. And basically, a business is a machine that does a lot of things, including serve customers, solve customers' problems, provide jobs for people. But it's a machine that should make money. I mean, that's really what the machine does. And those 6 key areas are leadership, that you have to have good leadership in the business. And that leadership should basically know where the business is going, why it's going there, and how it's going to get there. And then there's, well, these are out of order, but there's marketing. You've got to have a marketing engine that somehow gets the business going, a sales engine that gets the business going. You have to have products and services that are in demand and profitable. You have to manage overhead so that it doesn't get out of hand, and you have to manage cash flow. Basically, if you just manage those 6 parts of a business, it will work. That everything in the business that needs to be done can be done under one of these 6 headings. And the picture of a healthy business that I thought of that really sort of intuitively helped me govern my business was an airplane. And I realized that a business just works like an airplane. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. In your cockpit, you've got your leadership team. The leadership team needs to know where this airplane is going, because once you know where it's going, you'll know who's supposed to be on board, how much fuel you're supposed to have, how big the airplane is supposed to be. Once you know why you're going there, you know how big your cargo hold is going to be. You've got to know where you're going, and it's got to be really clearly defined. Otherwise, the whole thing doesn't work. The cockpit is in charge of how much fuel gets on the airplane and so forth and so on. And then you've got a right engine and a left engine, which are your marketing machine and your sales machine. You don't have to have a sales team. You can run a small business without one, but you've got to have a marketing engine. And that provides the thrust to get the airplane moving forward. And if you've got wings on the airplane, which represent your products, that airplane will get lift. It'll start to fly. So you have to have products that are in demand and profitable. You have to have engines that move the plane forward, and you have to have a cockpit deciding where this thing is going to go. And if you manage all that correctly, the airplane will fly. Then you've got the body of the airplane, which is your overhead. And the reality is you want to keep that overhead as light as possible. And if it's not light, then the thrust of your wings may not be enough. The thrust of your engines or the size of your wings may not be enough to get the thing off the ground. So you always have to manage overhead. And then finally, the fuel tanks represent cash flow. And if you run out of cash, the business is absolutely going down. So if you think about it, just with this analogy, you guys, everybody on this call is probably has an advanced business education just for what we talked about in the last 10 minutes. You know, if I walk into a business and they've got a really gorgeous, beautiful office, and as soon as I walk in, they hand me a bunch of swag, you know, a book tote with the logo on it and a Patagonia jacket with the logo on it and a hat. And I, you know, and I'm there, you know, they're bringing a product to market. It's not quite out yet. Then I realized this is a very dangerous building that I've walked into because this thing is probably going to crash. What I mean is they're spending a lot of money on overhead that does not directly relate to marketing or sales or the wings, which is actually where you want to spend the money. So when somebody in my company comes to me and says, Don, we've got this new initiative, we're going to need $250,000 to do it. They know in order to pitch me that initiative, they're going to have to associate that initiative with the engines or the wings. If they're saying, Don, it's $250,000, we're going to bring these desks into our office that convert into ping pong tables, and we'll be able to use them at happy hour in our office. Then in my head, I go, oh, you just made the body of the airplane bigger. And when you made the body of the airplane bigger, you did not contribute to the profitability of our products or our engines moving the plane forward. Now, that's not always a bad decision because desks that serve as ping pong tables can be really fun. And that can increase the morale of my team. It can make people want to come to work. So you have to kind of carefully calculate that, but you keep making those decisions and that thing is going to crash. And whenever you see people making, you know, I had a friend recently, she worked for a travel company that did travel blogs and, you know, worked with hotels to try to get people to come to that hotel. We were at a birthday party and we were eating a milk bar cake. If you've ever had a milk bar cake, it's the best cake you'll ever eat. They're amazing. And they literally soak the milk in cereal before they use the milk to make the cake. That's my kind of cake. So she said, you know, at my old company, serious struggle, and it is striking. I'm hearing somebody's got to go on mute. She said, you know, at my old company, everybody on their got a milk bar cake. And milk bar cakes are unique in the sense that they taste amazingly good and they cost like $100. And I realized at that point, I said to her, what happened to the company? And she said, well, they're going bankrupt. And if you think about why they're going bankrupt because they mail a $100 cake to every employee on their birthday, which is just increasing overhead. And so we've got to make decisions when we're running a company that engineer and make sure the airplane works extremely well. So what we've done is we've taken frameworks for each of the sections of the airplane, and we just turned it into a checklist of everything you need to do to get your airplane engineered correctly and make sure that it doesn't crash. And, you know, the first thing that we do is in the leadership in the cockpit, you clarify your personal mission, you clarify your business mission, and feel free to grab a screen capture of these if you want. Create a digital dashboard so that you know what your revenue is, what your profit is, what your leads are. You've got to have a digital dashboard that really helps you navigate the airplane correctly. You want to become a great communicator so that you get buy-in from everybody. You want to be able to manage your talent. You want to be able to develop your talent. And you want to install a management and execution framework so that everybody knows their job and what's expected of them. That's basically the job of the leadership team. And most companies don't actually really know what the job of the leadership team is, but that's what it is. And then the right engine, which is what Chrissane and Mike talked so much about, is that marketing engine. And basically in your marketing side of things, you want to clarify your message and you want to create a sales funnel. That is what's going to move the airplane forward and get the airplane off the ground. Next is your left engine, and you want to develop your sales team and a sales process. So you have a pipeline that your leads are going through so you can convert them. You also want to streamline your administration process so that you've got somebody in there who's dealing with leads and passing good leads on to the sales team and catering to and nurturing leads that aren't ready yet to buy your product. Those are the two main things you got to do in your sales team. Next are the wings of the airplane, and this is where a lot of people mess up. You actually want to assess the profitability of your product. You don't just want to create a product because customers want it. You want to assess the possibility of new product creation, whether or not you should create this. You want to install a process for product development, and you want to streamline your customer service department. You also want to define an effortless customer experience. The body of the airplane, you want to keep it light as possible. This is where venture capital money, private equity, and loans from banks can really mess you up, because you have money coming in that customers never gave you, and you get really deceived about whether or not this company is healthy. I'm not against any of that, but it can be very, very confusing. The big paradigm shift when it comes to overhead is you want to stop spending and start investing. In other words, when somebody comes to me or when I have an idea of something to do with the company and it's going to cost X amount of dollars, I have to ask myself, how is this an investment rather than a spend? Because, at my company and hopefully at yours, you don't actually spend any money. You invest everything. And you see when somebody says, look, here's a $25,000 thing we want to do, they also need to come with a business case to say, look, this $25,000 will make us $50,000 if we do things right. Everything has to have a business case for how it will make money. You want to be able to create a more efficient business and see how you can make this thing more lean. And you want to grow your company with new products that don't bloat overhead. And you want to be able to say, look, what's the next way we can provide value for our customers that does not bloat overhead? And finally, the fuel tanks, and this is the last one, cash flow. You've got to protect cash flow. And in order to protect cash flow, you want to install a revenue director. You want to understand, and a revenue director, for most people who are running a business, especially a business, say under $5 million, the owner of the business really feels like they're the only one who is in charge or responsible for revenue. And they're looking at the numbers every day and they're wondering, gosh, we're seeing a decline in revenue. We're seeing a decline in profit. They're the only ones worried about it. And one of the very first things that you need to do with that company is make sure that the revenue responsibility is shared with the CEO or the owner and somebody else, preferably the sales or marketing director. And when there's multiple people who actually wake up and care about the revenue, that shared responsibility eases the burden and gives more people ownership and responsibility for the company. The next thing that you want to understand is what the real story that the numbers are telling. And you want to be able to look at the numbers and project what next month and the month after that, what the revenue will be. That way you have a standard to measure revenue against. You want to understand how cash flow is affected by every single decision. And you want to manage your checking accounts and manage your cash. And you do that in our system, you do that with 5 checking accounts. And you want to be able to manage your cash flow so you don't run out. You want to create a compensation package for every member of the team that increases rather than decreases revenue. So you compensate based on incentives that actually get the marketing engine and the sales engine to move faster, and you get the wings to be lighter and stronger so the company makes more profit. In my opinion, and it's somewhat controversial to talk about this, but in my opinion, I think this is a better business education than they're teaching in most business schools. We'll come back to this in a second, but this is how, in my opinion, this is how a business works. And this is what we aren't teaching most business leaders. And, especially in a specific geographic region, if you teach the business leaders in that geographic region how to really run a business, and if the community gets behind the businesses in that community, you see the community begin to thrive. There's more money coming into the community. There are more jobs coming into the community. Those businesses would pay more taxes so the community could improve. And the relationship between public servants and the business leaders becomes a friendly relationship because you've educated people on how to grow a business. With that, I'd love to take questions if anybody has any. Let's see if we can stop sharing.
We've just really had some affirmations in the chats, not a lot of questions yet. I do want to comment on something Brittany said. She mentioned, you mentioned the different checking accounts.
Yes.
And she said that sounded a lot like Profit First. And I know that there's some alignment in that, if you wanted to touch on that real quick.
Yeah, Mike and I are friends, and we were running the 5 checking accounts before I met Mike. There's only one difference, though, between the way Mike and I do that. He takes profit out at the beginning of the month, and I use a slightly different system. I take money out of the operating expense account after it goes over a certain threshold. In fact, Chrissanne, let me go back to this real quick, because they put a graphic in here that would be super helpful. You know, the way I do this is very similar to Mike Michalowicz. I have an operating expense account. That's where all of the money flows into and out of. And then when that account exceeds a certain balance, I split the excess money between 2 other accounts. That's profit and taxes. Taxes, of course, goes to pay the government. That profit account is the largest account, and I keep 5 times my monthly expenses in that profit account. What that does is, if there's a problem with the airplane, it gives me a long time to circle the airport before that thing crashes. So it's my safety account. I also have a personal checking account for my personal income that comes out of the operating expense account. So I basically pay myself a salary. I keep the profit in the company to make the company safe. And then the profit account actually has a high threshold, and I put the excess money from profit into something I call investment holding. And that basically goes to the owner, and they can use that to make other investments to diversify their revenue. What I've found in the 7 years I've been using these 5 accounts is I never, ever run out of money. I've never not had tax money when I need to have tax money. The company is always extremely safe in terms of our ability to make payroll. And my wife and I have never had a single argument about finances, which is a miracle if you're running your own company. Those are the 5 accounts that I keep, and they're the ones that I recommend all business owners keep, because, you know, it's certainly worked extremely well for me.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Don. All right, it's amazing how quickly time flies.
It is, isn't it?
We're approaching the end of our hour, and I have a couple of thoughts I just wanted to share. I know we've lost several people before I got to say this, but everybody's questions were so good. I was just happy to let them have the opportunity. I just wanted everyone on the call to know this is great. This is a good starting point, but taking a deep dive into this content, like Don said, I have access to the slides, to the coaching material. What I have planned, first of all, take a look at my beautifully new launched website. Amanda, I think she's still on the call, has been working diligently to get all of that taken care of and getting it ready. So ChrissanneLong.com. Through there, you're able to access Business Made Simple University. Don, do you want to talk for a minute about all the great things that are living inside of Business Made Simple University?
I will. Yeah. If you don't have time to go back and get an MBA, and if you don't want to go into debt, we created a much better platform. It's $275 a year, so it's dirt cheap. And then the courses, about 2/3 of the courses that you need to manage the airplane are already on the platform. And then over the next 18 months, we're creating the rest of them. Plus, I do monthly coaching where you can ask me questions like this every single month. And we just did a coaching, a 2-hour live stream on sales. The next one is on leadership. The one after that is on talent management, how to hire and fire people without going crazy. In fact, I think if you go get a counseling degree, you're going to be more equipped to do business than you will getting a business degree, because it's all people, it's all relationships. And but anyway, we created Business Made Simple, the online platform, to be your small business coaching platform. And because we are absolutely committed to keeping the body of your airplane as lean as possible, it's $275 a year. It's dirt cheap. And so Chrissanne can get you the link and help you figure out how to do that. And then she also can coach you through all those courses. So I'm grateful for partners like her. What we want to do, honestly, you guys, we want to replace the MBA program with your neighbor's living room. We just think business leaders do a better job teaching business leaders how to grow a business than Harvard does. Nothing against Harvard, but we're cheaper and we get you a better return.
So if you like what you see from this video with Donald Miller and you're ready to embark on a year of transformation, you're invited to get your ticket today and kickstart 2022. I encourage you to do it now, because all ticket holders and staff for Balloon Boss Summit 2022 will be able to attend the kickoff webinar on January 13th. I hope you enjoy this recording, and I look forward to meeting you all soon. See you soon!